go. Starting the stream. All right. Good morning. Welcome back to the stream. Today we're going to finish up the rest of the painting. We're going to do it. I believe. Good morning. How is everyone doing today? I hope you are all doing very well. I'm pulling back all the paints that I had on the palette yesterday. And forgetting where to... Okay, hold up. I gotta change this. Oh! I'm gonna knock down everything. Pull that in so that I can have this in a comfortable location. Alright, I give up. The palette cam will be what the palette cam is. I think almost all of these paints are going to be good for today. Is this one good? Yeah, the only one we are missing is raw umber. Also, yesterday I laid out the ultramarine and then just proceeded to not use it at all. Gotta love it. But fortunately, I did not end up wasting that paint because ultramarine stays nice and juicy for multiple days. All right, okay, this, and then I probably will need more cadmium red, but I will leave that for, yeah, I'm not going to pull that out yet. Oh, getting paint on my hand. All right, let's go. Oh, wait, let's wipe that off first. All right. So, I am going to start with the red, I think. It's a fun color. I'm feeling it. Grab some red, grab some burnt umber, and make my favorite mix of red. And that'll be perfect for the shadowy, darker areas. Maybe even the highlights as well. And then I'm going to grab the rest of the red and do a little bit of this pinky, the yellow white. That's probably going to make it a little bit too pink. I'm going to add some cad yellow to make it a little bit more orange, because these highlights have a very warm cast. And it's a convenient way to get rid of the cherry blossom pink that you get. And you find the cad red. There it is. This one's a Winsor & Newton cad red. I like Winsor & Newton enough. They're good. Just kind of your average professional grade of paints. The only difference in professional versus student grade paints is the amount of pigment in the actual paint. So if you're starting out, student grade is perfectly good. Don't even worry about it. But then as you paint a lot more, you'll probably find yourself wanting to have higher pigment count, because it is really nice. Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit of more white. I'm gonna try to make a highlight of, maybe I don't actually need a lighter color than that, now that I'm looking at it. But I'll make this sort of in between. It'll be mostly cad red, but with just a touch of the yellows and white to make it not so this colory. Though I probably will end up just using it straight out of there. This like area, some of the shadows are very vibrantly red. So let's get started. Oh, I just broke my brush. Shove that back on. Whoopsies. All right. I always like starting with the darks, so I already just noticed that there's a little bit of dark shadow right on this edge where her arm is separate from her body. It's like right around the corner. I don't even know. You can't really see it even. And And while I have this brush up, I'm gonna add just a little bit more darkness. Ooh! I just messed that up like really badly. Oh, I just realized this is probably very loud. Oopsies. Oh, I'm moving everything around. Alright, no, there we go. Alright, so in the end of yesterday, I was talking about having this brown halo around it, so around all of it, the face and the skin tone, to establish the color of the skin tone in relation to what will be the background. And so that today, when I go in, I can just do a light coloring of something close, and then I'll be able to blend really easily into all of it. So I'm going to grab the Burnt Umber Red mix. This is actually a very vibrant mix. I like this for quite a bit more. I'm using the filbert to start because it has good push capabilities. It can move paint around and really get it in the crevices. I am going to need to make a darker version of this color. I'm going to stop and do that right now. Just so I have a few more colors to play with on my palette. So got some Cad, some Burnt Umber, and I'm going to grab some Raw Umber. I might even want to add a little bit of black, but I don't really think so. I think the Raw Umber will be sufficient. Good morning. If you are just arriving, good morning. I hope you are doing well. This is actually quite a lot of premixes. I do not usually do this many to begin. Usually I just do like my established skin tone colors and then mix from there. But these mixes actually aren't too bad. I mean, it's just Cad Red plus other things. Okay, trying to find where these different shadows go. Sort of roughly laying it in. Coughing, talking too much. And I'll start laying in some of these down here. This entire area is rather dark. I'm a bit better at doing clothing, it not being a face with very complicated different shadows and angles and highlights and color shifts and all of the things. Clothing is relatively simple based on that. So I'm feeling confident this morning to finish the rest of this painting. Also, I want to finish it so that next week I can get started on new paintings and not do a part 3. Need some down here. Having a bit. No, I didn't want to do that. Getting distracted. That's going to want to go darker, most likely. Though there are a lot of colors that I have left to create. Yes, right here. Okay, swapping to a new brush. I'm going to continue on with this medium-ish color that is actually rather vibrantly red. I'm starting to look for a few more shapes within this darker area. It's a bit like a paint by numbers at this point, where I'm just trying to find where does this color that is on my brush want to go on the painting. That probably went up a little bit too far. I think this actually does stop down here. That's all good. This wants to come up closer. Pour a bit more paint. Always trying to keep the paint on the canvas really thin, especially when I'm doing alla prima, so that the brush strokes don't show up, but also so I don't get overwhelmed with how much paint is on the canvas and really start fighting just the sheer volume of paint, which is a real problem when doing alla prima. Grabbing the black brush and finding a couple of transitions in here. Pushing this a little bit darker. Why does this always get so crooked? I don't know. The perpetual problem. This is what happens when I balance the palette on my lap. But it's a very convenient spot to put it in, so, you know. It's just not very helpful for recording. Okay. Starting to get the feel for some of these shapes. I'm gonna take the medium color. Find a few more shapes in here. I'm already feeling that this brush is too large, and the filbert shape is starting to be less helpful because I can't get in all of the right crevices, but I'm going to carry on so I don't get too bogged down on the details. Staying with the larger brush for as long as possible. Adding a bit of the darker shade, just a tad. Feeling a bit too light, and it comes in here just a little bit, in here, right on the edge, and the edge wants to be really dark actually, so I'm going to leave that. This is the lighter brush. Clean it off a little bit by mixing. Coming in here, down. This sheer part of the veil, I'm going to add it on top. I could either just paint the under part of it, the red part, completely, and then wait for it to dry and paint on top. But I'm going to attempt to do it today. But I'm just going to get kind of close, leave it really thin so that I can blend in with the yellow. But that's definitely something that Luca would have done. There I go again. First name basis with all of the historical artists. But it's something that he would have done with definitely on like the second day. You can tell the whole veil was done in a second pass because you see the blue in the background. That is no blending in. I don't want to use all my little filberts. Okay. Which means I need to sacrifice a filbert. But I'm not done. I didn't do all of this. Okay, so that comes up here. This comes up here. This is over here. That's a bit dark. I'm going to start going towards straight cadmium red. And then I'm just going to shift this brush into the highlights by just adding more different, just mixing towards it. But I'm going to make sure that I get everything that I like with the color that's on it before I move out, because swapping back and forth and back and forth and back and forth will muddy the colors a lot. And right now I just want to get the whole canvas covered, and then I'll start going in with the rounds. That wants to be dark. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'll come in with the rounds after and finesse all of the details. That is a light spot. That's all light. This needs to go a little bit darker, perhaps. That wants to go a lot darker. That and like this. I do have a dark brush, so let's start using that again. Grab a little bit of black with the umber, a little bit of alizarin crimson in here, because I can. Alizarin works really great in dark areas. This, I think, comes up a little bit higher. And coming down right there. Okay. The rest of over there is just light colors. Just a few more dark spots. Down here. Just letting in a little bit more. The filbert also pulls paint up a lot. So I'm going to stop using it. Yes, I'm going to go with this filbert brush, the light one, wipe it off, and then go into this paint. Yeah, that's a good color. It's very like bright and strange color, but it is good for the basics. I would say it goes even more orange in the painting. It's just a little crazy. And for it coming off completely as a red dress, you know, you wouldn't expect it to be so much orange. But the warm highlights really bring it up. And this part doesn't look like he did very much glazing. It does look more like he just mixed the colors and did it more of an alla prima style. Just wet into wet. Or dry on top of dry, rather than doing really smooth glazes. Down here. There. I didn't really bother to find many of the shapes when I was transferring the image over. So some of these might be a little off. I want more yellow. I'm gonna mix some, so I'm not just loading up the brush more and more. Making more of a cad orange, which is simply cad yellow and cad red, together with, I'm gonna add some white, or the yellow white, which is cad yellow and white. More yellow, and I'm almost out of yellow. Oh no! There we go, I like that. That's a much better color. I do need an almost very vibrant orange. Let's make it. Okay, let's drop the palette knife first. Come back! Oh boy. Almost falling over. Cad orange. I'm gonna take the rest of that cad yellow, and I need a little bit more cad yellow. Yeah, I'm definitely need it later today. Where is it? Oh, the camera shakes because the paints are under the camera. Yeah, I'll just mix it up here. Whenever I'm adding more paint to the palette, I always want to make sure I mix it up a little bit, because there's always a little bit of oil that doesn't fully get mixed in. They settle out, and then it comes out all wonky. Okay, hold on. Stabilizing. Okay, we're good. Grab some of the red, much less red than yellow. I like when my cad oranges are very orange, so I don't do an even mix of the two. I skew heavily towards cad yellow, but it makes a really pretty orange. I'm gonna grab a tiny filbert, I think, and then just That might be, well, a little bit more cad red. Just a little bit. What just happened here? Why did I just see something flash? Oh my, what just happened? Okay, well, we're just not going to worry about that. It still says I'm live, so we're going to keep moving on. Coming down. Over here. Deposit a little bit of cad red over there. Or cad orange, what am I saying now? Orange, orange. Okay, this section is even. Yeah, it's even. It just needs more cad red. The darker one. Ooh, that had a lot of black in it. Wipe that off. A little bit in here. In there. And then I want this, some sort of in-between color. Maybe some of this one. Just fill this in and give us somewhere to go off of for the rest of the fabrics. I might even add a little cad orange straight to the mix. Both to lighten it up. And because it does skew a little bit that direction. Adding yellow is a very good way to lighten red without making it really pink. And that looks like exactly what happened in this painting. Ooh, something's wrong over there, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. Adding just a little bit of more darkness. I think that comes up a little higher. Okay, and then that's yellow, so we're not going to do that yet. Coming in here. 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 Oh, a little bit too much paint. Okay. There's only one spot I think I want to do more, which is this transition. I made it a little too abrupt between the two different colors. So I'm just going to blend it out a little bit. Make it look like it's turning around her body. This is another Annunciation painting. I did, the other painting this week was also the Annunciation. And I didn't really realize that they were both the Annunciation. But this one is the Annunciation. And Mary wears red to symbolize the future passion of her son. So, Jesus. And then blue for heaven. And then usually it's a white veil for purity. I don't know why Luca went with yellow, but it does look really nice. So, could just be aesthetics. As you do. Alright. I need to stop with the filberts, I think. This is much lighter down here. This is going to be way too orange. Yeah. It wants to be this one. Like that. And like that. All right, we're going to go to rounds now. Wow, okay, just throw that on the floor. And it's really rough right now, so we're going to finesse everything to look really nice, and then we're going to move on. And that is how we approach the whole painting. I'm going to use something cad ready with a little bit of burnt umber. And really start going in and figuring out what each of these shadows and highlights really want to be doing. Now that I have a base, I can just delicately squiggle my brush around and it'll move the paints around. And I don't have to go to the palette nearly as much anymore. Because mostly I'm just softening all the edges that are already up there. Having a little bit of paint on the brush that is a sort of medium in-between color helps move it around without depositing a crazy random new color. Like if I was going to add dark in here, it would be way too dark. And same with something too light. But this is, kind of that in-between blended color. And as I'm moving the brush around, I'm picking up some more colors and paints. So I'm keeping that in mind. So as I go into the darker shapes, I will be avoiding the lighter shapes until I do more work in the lighter shapes, or the medium shapes, and then work my way over that way. That is the way that makes sense the most in my own brain. But everyone's going to have a sort of different technique to approach the final finessing layers. It's kind of whatever makes most sense in your head. But hearing what other artists do, always, definitely. It always helped me as well. So, there you go. Coming in. I like that. Depositing a little bit more of the paint that's on the brush because this is a little too dark and a little too transparent. Needs a little bit more paint. This also wants to come down a little bit farther. I realized I'm a little far away from my line, which I do know that line is actually that yellow spot. All right, this area has a little bit too much white, I think. Also, this darkness doesn't come down. So I'm gonna grab 2 new brushes. First with the dark, and that will pick up the medium tones of the dark and blend it with the dark dark. Because there's an extra crease right there and in here. There we go. That does want to go very dark though, so I'm gonna grab a little bit of black and burnt umber and just place that crease. There we go. And then this has a slight V-ing right there. Like that. And then this wants to definitely come over a little bit first. And just depositing a little bit more of that black as I work my way up on the shoulder. And this shape is going all wonky. So I'm gonna grab the other new brush and go with the lights. And I think I like this color. We'll see. Yeah, that's pretty good. Every piece of fabric on this painting is this sort of very light sheer fabric. Very unlike cotton, very unlike, even unlike silk, I would say. More like a gauze. And yet it lays so nicely. It has all these little crinkle and creases as a result. That's darker on that side. But I want to just blend this one little area right there. And down here. And then I'm going to grab a little bit of this pink. And just deposit a little bit of it here. Maybe straight cad. So it's not so light. I did add white to that pool. Oh, and I'm adding way too much paint to the brush. Take some of that off. Grab a little bit more. And a lot of how fabric looks is established on how blended each of the shadows, highlights, and shapes are, and how many highlights are visible. If a fabric's really shiny, it's going to have a ton of highlights. But if a fabric is more matte, it's going to have less, and they're going to be much softer. I'm going to go to the dark brush because there's some dark bits. Also, how many creases and crinkles are in the fabric is going to greatly determine how that fabric looks. That's right, it's really tempting as the artist to get a little lazy with fabric, or at any part of the painting. But in fabric in particular, if you get a little lazy with it, suddenly it starts looking like some other different kind of fabric. So it's a really big balance between putting enough detail to make the viewer be like, yeah, that makes sense as that kind of fabric, and leaving enough out so that you don't go cray-cray. Going a little bit darker here. It always intrigued me so much how the old masters did fabric. Especially with angels. I don't know if you've ever like stared at old paintings, but eventually, especially at Caravaggio. Caravaggio is cracked. Amazing at everything. I have a couple of his planned, but I can't find good photos of it. But anyway, the way that the fabric just looks like it's falling in midair and hanging, like caressed by the breeze, essentially. It's crazy. It doesn't sound so crazy for us who have phones and cameras that can do still frames and quick shots and literally photograph the fall of a piece of fabric. But back in the day, I literally have no idea how they accomplished some of these fabric draperies. Because you can drape fabric, but fabric will, observe gravity. Okay, this goes a little bit darker on her soon, and I need to go find that color. I remember it was like burnt umber, or raw umber, yellow, black. Oh gosh, what else? Maybe white? I'm adding a little bit of this in so I can blend it so this edge is not so sharp. Definitely is darker than that. But to make it look like it's being blown by the breeze, you'd have to sit there and stare at fabric literally being blown by the breeze and start painting it as it's falling. It's very impressive. And one of the really cool things to do to realize, and one of the cool reasons to do master copies and to look at what did those of the days of old do. So I think we get a little bit lazy with our photography, We're like, oh, I can just grab a photo and a reference of that. But to get so good at knowing how fabric drapes and flows in the air that you could essentially do it off the top of your head and just know how the drapery would fall, and that's next level. But that's closer to what they would have had to do before the invention of the camera. So this is way too dark. Also, I feel like I'm adding too much paint, so I'm going to go and I'm going to grab a soft, big brush and just pat that out, and that'll leave enough paint for me to blend into for the red, and it'll blend it into what's left, and I don't have to rematch all of the colors. Just a little slight glazing. I'm going to put that brush in the back. Or, where was I? Okay, my light and my medium color brush look exactly the same. I don't really know which brush I was using. Okay, so that highlight side is a little weird. I'm going to assume it's this one. It's not, but it is now. All right, so this... I have it going over and then down, and it just wants to go down. And then it wants a little bit more up here. So it's not a bit more blending. It's getting a little streaky. That didn't really help, but that's okay. These lines are too parallel, these dark ones that I added. I'm going to go to the medium brush. Add in a bit more color there because it was getting a little dark. And then this highlight is a little too vibrant. So both tone it down and pull it down. And bring it up a little bit. Same with this one. Just looking and thinking. Okay, getting a little confused here because the veil isn't done, but so I'm gonna table that for a bit, even though it does look a little bit wrong. Grabbing this. And just adding a bit more. It got a little light, I think. Softening that edge. It does also want to go dark right on that corner as it kind of transitions into the veil. And down here, it's much less defined. So I got to tone that back down. No biggie. Also kind of curves down too far. It wants to go a little bit over, I think. Slash also just be pulled down, but I do have that, you know, skin tone color. Let's try that. Just cut the neck down a little bit. Make that edge really smooth so that it doesn't stand out like a sore thumb. Same thing over here. And then there's a little bit of a dark transition right here. And then there's a highlight as it goes from behind the divot of her neck to the highlight coming from the sun. Okay. I'm gonna grab a new brush and start laying in that highlight. So I'm gonna grab the yellow, white, mix it in with a little bit of whatever this color is, because that looks like it's closest. And then this is gonna be good for, here we go. Like this, like that. I didn't actually touch the canvas. I'm going so delicate that you can't even see my brush strokes. Just to say I'm not painting at all. Alright. And this is actually... no, that's okay. I was gonna say it's gonna be a bit too pink, but I think it's almost there. I just added a little bit more white though. Bum, 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 bum. Okay, that brush is going to be tabled for all future highlights. And then I want to have a little bit more orange, I think, in some of these areas. It's going a bit too straight red. And having the orange is going to also give it some added vibrancy. Orange looks more orange, or red looks more red next to orange rather than brown. So that's kind of what we're going to go for a little bit. Because brown and white are both neutralizers, but orange is a very high chromatic light color. So you can use it to the advantage, which is, it looks like exactly what Giordano used. Alright, moving down to here, that has more red in it than orange. Also, the color that I placed earlier had a lot more orange, so I'm keeping that in mind. And also that is not that light. Get rid of that little bit of highlight. Okay. This yellow will be very interesting to paint. Coming in here, and there. I'm gonna grab the darker. No, I'm gonna grab the medium. So this one has more red, has the burnt umber in it. I'm gonna use it to define some of these shapes, pull in the lights into the right direction, right location, and make the whole thing a little bit more opaque. Because the first pass was really transparent. Placing it in between. And I want to go a little bit darker here, so I'm just going to snag a little bit there and here. If you have any questions while I'm painting, feel free to throw them in the chat, or if you're watching the VOD after and you have a question that comes up, throw it in the comments and I'll read it. And while you're down here and watching, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on next live streams. And it also really helps out the stream and the channel. And throw a like on the live. That really helps out. That's like totally free, like the easiest thing, right? It takes 2 seconds. And it does help. So thank you in advance if you do. Very, very much appreciated. Back up there. Getting a little bit more opaque here. This shadow shape is confusing me because there's that light white that pops right in between it. But I'm going to leave it there. Sort of table it for a while. Okay. Comparing. Ooh, that highlight got very low. Alright, grabbing the brighter color. Grab some Cad Orange. I'm going to move it up. Do I really want to move it up? Yes. I want it to go like there. Always adjusting. Finessing. Finessing is a great word. Okay, also that angle is, I don't even have to look at the camera to know that that angle is totally off. Okay, so this whole area I want it to be a little bit lighter, but then have this little bit of darkness. I'm going to grab the darker brush in the medium. Gently start adding a little bit of that. Okay, that's not enough, but it's getting there. Okay, this top highlight wants to be a little bit smaller, but I'm going to do that with the highlight color because this bottom one wants to come up here and then come down. Like that, maybe? Yeah, we'll go with something like that. Okay, as a whole, how does that side look? I think I want to table up whatever I have. Move on to the other part so I can keep this painting going, except that this wants to blend more into the shadow than into the highlight. Also, I think this darkness comes up a little bit higher. Oh, except this is nowhere near the right brush to do that, so I'm gonna grab the dark brush and just erase a little bit of that. Blend it out. Even that highlight, this like whole highlight section looks like it's a little bit small. Is that the problem, or am I seeing something different? I think maybe it's just this highlight right on the edge. And then there's a tiny black section right here that I don't have. Okay. And then I think this section does need to come out a little bit more with the light. Grabbing the dark, kind of just jumping between the three brushes. Okay, that I know just messed that up a little bit. I think I'm gonna move on. I don't think I can figure out exactly what this shape wants to be doing until I have more of the darkness up here, because that whole area is pretty dark. So, on to the other side. I'm gonna start with the shadows again. Maybe not though, the shadows here, I threw them in here a little bit too big. So they're kind of good, but I'm just gonna give it a slight extra layer. The rounds are a little better at depositing paint on top and not moving it around. So I like to give it a preliminary little second layer. Filberts, push it into the grain, rounds, leave it on top. Which is precisely why they're a little more difficult to use on the first pass. They leave a lot of gaps. Alright, this wants to go like that color a little bit more. This wants to go a little bit more even. This is too abrupt of a transition in its entirety. So soften that entire edge. Do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do. Do-do-do. A little bit more down here, and then blending these edges together. But this shape goes in that direction. And same with this one. Kind of angles up more instead of curving. Now this whole section has a little bit more of a brown mixed in. So I'm gonna grab a little bit of umber and bring it in with, over here with a little bit of the cad red and the old red right there. And let's see, that's a better highlight color. So I'll just tap this around. And then I'll go find a darker color to do in between and then blend those together. I'm gonna shift to the darker brush though, so that I don't keep getting that brush. I like that brush, the color it is. So we're gonna preserve it. There we go. Da, 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 da. this on. So many things going on in it. Does that actually, okay. Yeah. There's a line that goes that way. I think that is entirely way too low. Whoopsies. It's fine. Oh. I got some white down there. Did not want that. No problem though. Okay. There is this one little spot right here. It's a really dark bit. And then down here. So I have the dark brush in hand. I'm going to shift over here while I kind of let that area ruminate. So there's a lot of transitions going on over there. Down here, there. All right, now I'm going to go back to the medium red. Perhaps it needs to be a little bit more in between those two to do down there. Okay, I'm gonna go to this pile, which has more of the burnt umber in it. This brush also looks like it has a lot of orange. When did that happen? But that's good, that's good. It does want to have a little bit of orange in it. Ew, don't get that on the finger. Oh wow, that's really dark. You know, I just realized that the white of the yellow veil. Also, why did I go in so far over here? Whoa. Guess that's the line, but then there's this white spot on top of it. Okay. I don't know if that's dark enough for my view of it. I added black to this brush that was supposed to become medium. It's okay. I'll drive myself crazy with brush management. That is my least favorite thing to do. If I could just never, I could just never actually blend colors, or not blend colors, mix colors, and I would just have the right color on my brush at all times for whatever I wanted to do, that would be ideal. Which I guess suppose does explain why I like blending this way. It's like a subtle shift in both directions. And it makes it so I don't have to go back to the palette quite so often. Okay, I think I need to get some of the highlight colors in here because these shapes are looking rather wonky. A little bit all over the place. Mostly I'm just kind of demolishing the edges and making all of the transitions blend together, creating new colors on the canvas. All right, to a new brush entirely, since I no longer know what's on any of those brushes. Oh! Bye-bye brush. Cad orange, with a little bit of this red. Alright, wait, looking at it. Oh, this shoulder part's gonna be really fun. Okay, yeah, this actually is the perfect color. Ooh, yes, this is the color I want for this one little area here that's super orange. And down here, is that where that wants to go? No, it wants to go a little bit lower. How does that look? Yeah, that's probably closer. So in the beginning I was just relying on looking between the two paintings and seeing if I could get it accurate, which works the part of the mind that can see shapes and colors accurately in the right spot. Right, that's just like a practice. And if I get really good at that, then I don't have to do as much editing later on, right? Which is kind of the part of the phase that I'm coming to. That was way too low, I can tell already. But then, when I want to make sure it's accurate, I scoot back and I look in the camera and actually see where the shapes are missing and are a little skewed. And the camera gives me a better angle because it's smaller and they're side by side. It's like stepping back, but I don't have to squint my eyes. That's what I'm doing. Okay, there's a highlight there that I want to use my highlight brush. Right next to that nice orange is this nice little white highlight, which I just totally bungled that shape. It's fine. And then it's rather white here as well. Okay, and then when I get up there, I don't know if I'm going to do any more than that until I get to the yellow parts, which will be quite soon. Okay, so that bottom area is a little bit too orange. The highlight extends too far, so I'm going to grab some of the reds and I'm going to work into that to push it over, up, and around. Really just over and up. No around today. Alright, how do I feel about that? Now this shape is looking too soft. It needs to look a little bit more scumbled. Also, this light has fallen too far over. It needs to get out of here. I think I just embellished that dark. Oops. Okay. Okay. What am I seeing? I think the shadows are not too dark, but they are surrounded by too much medium. They need to have a bit more variation. Oh, okay, and that brush does not have that variation. Okay, wait. So, they need to have variation. Table that thought. Where else do I need this color? Looking back and forth. Okay. Pull this down. It is a bit of a blurry resolution, so there's a bit more dotting and kind of like, well, there's blur. There's blur in there that I'm embracing. I got this painting from the Met. They did they have an entire online gallery of what oh, that's too dark. What I assume is most of the paintings in their museum. And they did these really high resolution scans of all of their paintings, like crazy good. And that's where a lot of these paintings, these references are coming from, because they're one of the only museums that has really good resolution photos. Most online, I mean, they don't want you, right, just taking the photo from the museum and using it on Redbubble, for instance, and making money off someone else's hard work of scanning, even though it is technically in the public domain. Well, that was a sidetrack thought, but it's really, I find it very strange what is legal and illegal versus also like what people just do anyway in terms of copyright and stuff. But that's a topic for another day. I'm trying to say is that the Met has these lovely high resolution scans, and so if you ever like want to see some really cool art, go to the Met's website, and you can just essentially do a little virtual museum tour. And if you are an artist, that's a great spot to get references for master copies, because this also is perfectly fine. And they actually do have some photos on there that I was finding while I was doing this gathering of photos that you can't download, and they're just simply there on the website. I don't really understand. I do not understand the difference. I think it might be actually the paintings that are on display at the Met versus like in the actual building versus the ones that are being like restored or behind closed doors or not on display right now. So that might be the difference. But you can just look at them and they're gorgeous and amazing. Really good way to learn about art. All right, how do I feel about that? I feel like I brought that dark down too far. Oh gosh, what did I... Okay, that's fine. I just added some light, and then I want to grab the medium color, and it needs to go in between these two. Something rather like that. Soften the edges. Yeah, and then perhaps, haha, JK, okay. Doing a little bit here. And there. How do I feel about that? What is going on with this? What am I trying to accomplish here? Please, tell me. What? Okay, none of that's right. Get rid of it. And then this little Africa shape can go away there. Feel like my highlights are the right color, but they're sticking out like sore thumbs because they aren't blended and softened. The edges aren't soft. So I'm just going to go in a little bit and adjust to that. What do I feel? I think it needs, there's a little bit of a highlight that kind of merges down here that I'm missing. And then this shadowy color there is just a little bit too dark, and it's, oh, that's too light though. As is that. Wipe some of that off and just tap that in now. So it's creating these gigantic folds where it doesn't really want gigantic folds. Even if there are some of these darker and lighter colors there, they just need to be adjusted. Also, there's more red up here. Kind of lost that with all my playing around with the stippling because of the zoomed in scan version. Ooh, Lucky. No, 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 no. It was a bit of the wrong color. I just wanted to shift the angle of that white part, but that's okay. Okay, tabling this whole area, I think. Ha! Nope. Get out of here. Okay, in like 5 seconds, I'm going to swap over to the veil. Work on that. Because that's going to kind of help define the rest of that left side, I think. See, I don't know what's going on up here or next to it. So, new brushes. Starting with these shadows. So it's going to be... Why is this brush so stiff? It's going to be cad yellow plus black. Makes this lovely bright, bright green. Then we grab yellow ochre. Ooh, and we regret not putting new paint down, but we're going to use it anyway. It's getting a bit stringy. All right, we have this color, and that is... I think, I think that's actually, I think it just needs a little bit of umber. And then that's one of the in-between colors. It's not the dark that I wanted. I think the dark I wanted is umber, maybe a bit of burnt umber to make it a bit more pink. But then black and yellow. And umber, of course. That looks too dark and not brown enough, so we're gonna add a little bit of burnt umber. Okay, how are we feeling about this one? This looks very similar. It's just like a darker version of it. It needs to be more brown. All right, so moving that entire pile over, I'm gonna add some more ochre and burnt umber and start just gently blending those two together. Need more umber. Okay. Is that color? It's getting there. Maybe it is, and it's just the colors around it. Yeah, I think that's an okay start. And then this is going to blend into her hair. Huh. No, it can't be. It can't be that this entire yellow veil is just her hair. No, that does not make sense. Okay. But it is like very unclear right here what is hair and what is veil. Because the brown he chose is the same color as the shadows. Or very close to. I keep getting surprised by these old artists and how they handled hair on Mary. Just like places that I thought was just shadow or veil, when I look at it more closely to paint it, I'm like, wait, that's hair. I didn't realize that you put it in there. That wasn't really there. That was more up here. Of course, after all I said that about filberts being better for starting shapes, I'm using a round here, but that's because these shapes are really small. And so with one brush stroke of the filbert, I can pretty much define that area. I gotta be careful because this is now not the darkest color on this side of the head. This is sort of the medium. I don't want to be putting it where it needs to be black later, because that's going to be annoying. As far as possible, just getting the right color in the right spot from the start. Oh wait, I remember. Okay, that line is not the right line. That was me failing at drawing. Oh, that makes my head hurt though. That's okay. Okay, and then it kind of comes down here. This is, I think, the highlight shape. But then what's this? Who knows? This does look like it would be that, and then the veil comes out a little bit farther onto the red. And then it goes much more green down here, down yonder. And the green is mostly the two yellows plus black. Gently getting close up to the fingers. Okay. Where else do I want to go? Here, I think. There's a nice, I need a sort of in-between color there. I think that's it. Grabbing a new brush, I'm gonna do the darks on the right side of the head. I'm gonna grab umber. Wow, what is that? Okay, we're just gonna ignore it. Some black, there's a giant like hair. I don't know if it's a cat hair or a brush hair. And then add a little bit of the burnt umber. That also happened to have a little bit of cad red on there. You know, just because. Working back into the paint from yesterday. Oh, that's very light when I don't put it down thick enough. Okay, and the hair I think comes up a lot farther. I didn't really draw it to its extent. I just kind of was laying down a little bit of it to compare it to the color of the skin yesterday. And to get that blend in. There we go. This edge, I don't like how sharp it is, but I would have to redo the whole face to get it to blend. Hashtag unfortunate. Coming in here, that dark shape is definitely the neck. And then there's a dark red area, and then there's more of a dark yellow green area. All in that one little spot. I'm gonna grab the dark red brush and grab some black. Grab some more black. And throw that in. And blend it in just a little bit. All of this paint over here is still wet, because oil paints are amazing. Okay, back to the dark brush for the veil. I also have the blue, but I'm going to ignore that as well for now. This wants to have a bit more darkness in here versus those tiny little bits of highlight. But I'm going to ignore the highlights more or less. I'm going to leave little areas that I can add them in without them blending too much. So I'm not just laying it on top, but I'm going to mostly just see past them into the bigger shapes. That has a highlight. This has a little bit. It has a little bit of an edge. So I'm going to deposit just a little bit of paint on the sides. Okay, I'm going to leave that and define that with the highlights. There isn't as much black on this side, or darkness. There's perhaps a little bit more by the fingers. That might also be though because the paint dried and it dries lighter, matte. Black sinks in and becomes more matte over time. and especially overnight as it dries. So when I varnish it, these could be fine, but I'm just going to redefine them a little bit. Oh yes, and then there's this part of the... Ooh. I don't really want to deal with that white sleeve. A little bit of darkness there, and we're done with darkness. Now I'm going to make the lighter medium color into more of a warm for the medium warm colors. Not the medium warm, the medium like dark light colors. Wow, brain. It is a Friday. How do I feel about this? Way too green. Okay. But I kind of like it for this. Okay, so it comes down here. Oh, okay, and then it goes up, and then it really comes up there. Could even work down here. And there. Not really anywhere else though. I'm trying to get this medium color, which I'm looking at more, and I think it needs just to be yellow ochre with just a little bit of these other colors in it. And a little bit more. It's rather light, but it's not high in chroma. Ooh, that was too much, but I want a little bit of burnt umber. Yeah. Something like that. Definitely want this over here. Since this is in the shadow, the highlights are not going to be nearly as bright as the other side. So even though this is the shadow color on the other side, this is a pretty good color for the highlights on this side. And I just want to put those in here while I have it on my brush. This song is really quiet, so maybe you can hear it, but it's just this random secular song. But for some reason, all I hear in it is Agnus Dei, which, like, from the Mass, Behold the Lamb of God, or the Lamb of God, I suppose there's no behold in there, but it sounds so much like the song you would use in Mass. It really throws me off, but I love it. Get all confused sometimes when I hear it. I'm like, wait, am I listening to a church Gregorian chant just get in here? And now it's over. Okay, wait, what am I thinking here? I think that dark shape is too far over. It wants to go the other direction. But maybe not. But also this whole veil is kind of shifted over to the right. I just grabbed a little bit of cad yellow into that one as well to make it much more yellow. Okay, so this is the edge there. No, I mean, I guess that is right. There's just some stray bits that are gonna be on top. I think this overall wants to be a lot darker. Some more of the other colors that I was using a little bit earlier. This, though, probably does want to be on the lighter side, but I'm gonna sort of establish it with this medium. That one definitely is really light, but there's some darker bits. So I won't paint the whole area, I'll just paint the edges a little bit. So when I'm mixing the light color on there, I'm not mixing directly into the red, I'm going to be mixing a little bit into the yellows. There's also more dark on the dress over there. That's red. That now I'm saying I need. Like that. Okay, I don't know why I did those two brush strokes. Those were definitely wrong. But that's okay. So there's some little highlights that go over the red dress right there. I'm gonna, I think, just fill in most of the rest of the area with this in-between color, and then I'll add the highlights on top. I do also need more of it. But it was just a little, it was mostly yellow ochre with a little bit of cad red, and then the blacks and browns that I was using earlier. That whole area is very light, so we're gonna avoid it. Blending in, making sure I'm getting all of the cracks and crevices filled in, so I'm not getting distracted by little notes of highlight. Getting right up to the edge of the skin. Keep using all of this color. I'm gonna need to get a little bit more yellow ochre out on my palette soon. But I'm not minding too much of those, so I'm gonna grab a little bit of the black and yellow. Mix them over here that has a little bit of the burnt umber, and grab a little bit more burnt umber. And that looks pretty close to what I was working with. If you're just joining, welcome. And we are painting Luca Giordano's The Annunciation. So when the angel Gabriel came to Mary. And I'm just working on the veil. Laying in the covers, getting a rough look at the whole thing, trying to match color and shape. But being less concerned with shape and more concerned with, I was going to say color, but when thinking about it too, it's relatively concerned with shape and color. Okay, that's blue. That's the edge of that. Oh, which means that's really high, right? Yeah, no, duh, that's really high. Okay, well, that wants to be white. Forgot that's what the blue is. But mostly just trying to cover the canvas, but being mindful of the different colors and shapes. Okay, I think this wants to go darker here. This, I'm gonna have to erase. That kind of means the shoulder goes up too high now that I think about it. Okay. We're not gonna worry about it too much because I still want to finish establishing all the colors. Ooh, that was a lot of paint. And everything here is very thin so that I can keep working into it on top. Okay. Oh, I don't have a darker color brush. Interesting. Okay, I'm gonna grab a new brush then. I didn't realize I did all of that with the same brush. And I'm gonna grab burnt umber with the yellow ochre, a little bit of black, / umber. That's this color. Defining just a little bit more of those shapes. Getting this to be a little bit darker. But this is definitely too... Oh no, I don't know. That's an okay color for over here. All right, I want to fill in this whole area so then I can start adding in highlights. So we come to the point where I'm not quite sure what each of these individual colors want. I like more or less where the darks are and the highlights are everywhere else. So I'm just going to fill it in with sort of an in-between medium-ish color and come back to it in a minute. What is going on with the shoulder? I'm going to go back to some of the reds, keeping those. I didn't clean those brushes, I'm just holding them. I think this does want to go a little bit lower. Okay, am I holding the brush straight? Maybe. Yeah, a little bit lower. There's also a slight angle on this camera, but if I do bring this lower and then we add the veil lower, I'm going to see what that kind of looks like and feels. And then I can judge again. Because all this paint is still wet, I can still adjust everything. Okay. I'm going to grab this color, this lighter of the veil color, and I'm going to just add a little bit more over here. And now I'm going to grab a new brush and I'm going to start doing the highlights, I think. Oh, and I'm going to sneeze. Woo! Almost fell down. Thinking, processing. I'm gonna grab some of the yellow white. It does have a lot of highlight. Oh, I forgot this. I didn't add anything there. That's okay. That is almost not white enough. It is very white. That's also a little bit, okay, so I'm gonna add a little bit of ochre to it to make it a little bit more orange. And this won't be the brightest highlight, but it'll be close. Okay, so there's a light there on the top of the shoulder. Light as it goes around the shoulder there. Then there's a light, okay, well, it goes down that side and then up over there. And then there's a white there. And I'm out of white. Grab a bit more. Ooh, so close to being out of ochre. And then there's a little one there. And there. Then there's the little infinity guy. Not up here. Okay. So then from that, I'm going to grab more cad yellow and ochre. Oh, that's too right. More ochre. A little bit of burnt umber. Good in between for up here. This also needs to blend with the backgrounds. So now I'm just finding all of the highlight shapes in relation to the dark. Looking at this, and it doesn't do that much of a divot. So looking at what Luca Giordano did, part of doing master copies is asking the master, how did you accomplish that? And then trying to recreate it yourself, and then learning that for your own future sake, right? So it looks like he did, not precisely this, right? Because it does look like he did it in different layers. But these highlights that he placed on top are individual brush strokes that he was not blending in as much. He just placed them down on top. Probably waited for the paint to dry and then placed a few more. Trying to accomplish this all in today makes it a little bit more difficult, but that is what it looks like he's doing. So we're going in the right direction. Adding a little bit of warmth here. This is looking a little bit too yellow. So I'm going to shift a little bit more towards white in a second. Okay, there's a slight glow. Come on, come off the brush. Right in here with the skin. I'm gonna throw that in there right now. So, more white, less chroma. It's a lot of little crevices and transitions. So I'm just taking it slowly and figuring out where those lie. I probably will decide to come back with a sort of brown. Some of these areas are thin on purpose, but they are thin. Okay, those two brush strokes are not super good, but I can work in with the white there. Or with, black and brown, and go back in. All right, how about in the upper part of the veil? This is missing the dark. This spot right here is much more yellow, so grab a bit more of the yellow. It's more yellow, so I grabbed yellow. But I didn't really show that when I went down to the palette, because they're so close together. There you go. Anyway. Okay, this is getting too light. Like I said, that the highlights on this side are not going to be nearly as light as the highlights on the other side. But just dropping a little bit in, because the white will also be more opaque, which can really help with those highlights. Coming back on this side though. A little bit there, a little bit there. All right. This has another little divot right here. Okay, we got lots of little squiggles. The squiggles are everywhere. How do we get from squiggles to Luca Giordano? All right. Okay, I know they're chaotic, but I almost want to go to the background now. Just because they're so okay, well, that was really off. But just because they're so intermingled right on the edge and the colors are so similar, I feel like that could help. I don't like leaving an area kind of half done. Even though that's what I consistently do all the time. I don't like completely like moving on to the next area, but I think it might help. Also, I don't want to touch that, but her cheek looks a little bit more round in Luca's. Ooh, today is not a day to fix the face, because that was yesterday. I'm going to do the sleeve and start establishing those browns, and then those browns will transfer over to the veil darkness. So I'm going to leave those for a minute, and I'm going to move to more clothing. There's a little lip here on the easel. That's always kind of annoying to go around. So that's why I struggle when I come down here. You can't even tell on the camera that there's a lip there. Okay, so this is pretty much just all dark. I'm not even going to try to add a little bit of variation in there. And then, yep. Yep, just like that, like that. All right, and then I want the greener kind of middle background-ish, this one, with maybe a little bit of yellow and white. Sure, something like that. For in between there and down here. And then kind of in between these white spots, so we'll just add a little thin layer there. And there, and then we're gonna go to white. Wow, that was probably one of the most chaotic parts of it. But it's so small, it's on the edge. It's not gonna matter. Whoa, okay, there was a lot of red in that white. I want a little bit of black, which also has red in it. Oopsies. We're just having all sorts of cross-contamination, but I'm gonna embrace it. I do want it to be a little bit warm, I think. Yay. Maybe a little bit on the yellower, orangey side. All right, yeah, see, that's fine. This looks like pure white, and it is very far from pure white. Do. Okay, it curves ever so slightly in as it goes around the wrist. And there. And lots of little lines. I find putting white on top of color is a lot easier than putting color on top of white. Yep. That's the end of that statement. That's why I'm doing this in this order. And like just smudging in a lot of that middle tone color. It makes it all recede. I'm going to redefine a little bit of it, and then I definitely need to push darker. Yep. So grabbing almost black. Actually, no, not grabbing almost black. Mayday, get rid of that. Mixed a little bit of the umbers in with it. It looks almost exactly the same. But I know in my heart that it's a different color. And then it goes... What is going on there? Okay, so it's like the sleeve turns and goes into shadow and is this darker color. But then between the sleeve and the dress, there's this black. So like right Okay, come on, brush. Drop some black. It's a bit too much paint down there. All right, and then this comes in ever so slightly. Pull a little bit of the white out. This curves, and definitely the white does not go to the corner of the painting. So pull that up. Delicately lay in a little bit of the black to redefine some of those creases. Grab some of the nice chromatic greenish-y colors. A little bit there. Trying to avoid straight black and white because that looks boring unless I'm doing a grisaille on purpose. Do a little bit there. Make that a little bit thicker. Oh, that was probably a bit too dark. No, actually right there it does want to go dark. But then coming a little bit of the warmer colors on this side. Right? That's not bad. Speed run that piece of clothing. All right. Now that we have those established, I'm going to go onto the background. Oh! Got some paint back there. Don't do that. All right. These sort of backgrounds that have these brushstroke rays always give me trouble. So we shall see how I do. There's no dark on that side. It's just this side. I'm going to grab a filbert since I purposely left myself some for the background. I'm going to find that bluish... Oh, this ultramarine still has not been touched. Some bluish, warmish, coolish, grayish, brownish background color. That is totally... That's actually not bad. Grab some white to make it more opaque. Yeah, it's that color. That was not actually supposed to work that well. I'm happy with it though. That is most definitely a good base for this area. Yeah. Have a little bit of blue. Definitely has some blue in it because the sky. I need some more white. Okay, throw it out in, throw it in, throw it in. All right, I didn't actually mix enough, so this is just very thin. All right, so what did I say? Blue, brown, black, gray, warm, cool. It's a bit actually warm for that area. Add some blue. It does include this little area. That is much more of a vibrant blue. I'm going to avoid it for a minute so that I can get a pure blue on the brush and then just do all these browner areas first. Ooh, that's blue. Okay, well, so since I have the blue... Oh, see, no, that's too dark. Add a little bit, wee bit more white. It comes in here, and then... What is this? What is this? What is that? Is that veil? Is the veil actually, like, flying into the distance over here? So oil paints get more transparent over time. They are a transparent paint and they will become more transparent with time. Just random things. I'm making brown. So things that are light and placed on top thinly will not withstand a test of time. So you always want to keep that in mind while you're painting with oils. Is that unless you're doing a nice thick layer or doing it from the start, your whites might fade. It's not as terrifying as it sounds because you learn how to do that and you get better at it. But it does make master copies really confusing, because is that actually veil that's flying? I mean, it's gotta be. That's the same kind of feel and look. So we're gonna think about that as I. Okay, that is dark. All right, this is a little bit too blue. I need it to be more yellow. Add a bit more umber and a bit more white. Boop, 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 boop. These kind of backgrounds are really nice to do after everything else, actually. You know, just kind of decided that right now. Because all the colors that I want to be mixing into this background color are colors that I've used in the painting so far. So they're already like halfway mixed. Just kind of, it's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. I really wonder if he would have painted the background before or after the rest of it. But I mean, we already established that if that's the veil, he would have painted it. He had to have painted it first. Grab some burnt umber again and some raw umber. Start getting a little bit more serious about this placement of color. Before I was just kind of throwing it down, getting a nice thin layer. Now I'm building it back up and noticing where there actually is darker spots versus lighter spots. Like down here. So before I forget that, I'm going to throw that in there. And then there's a nice, there was a nice brown spot there until I pressed the brush down too far and got all the colors from underneath. I tend to load my brush up in layers, semi on purpose and mostly by accident, and because that's just how my brain works. So I kind of keep loosely in mind the colors that went into the brush at the beginning versus the colors that are on the top of the brush. And if I want to, I can press it down a lot and get the original color down. Sometimes I do that anyway, and then it comes out at the wrong time. But when I'm working with these muted colors, I find it very helpful. Does want to have some more dark here. So like here, I want to add more of that brown that I know is underneath. Okay. What is the color that goes right next to the veil up there? That's one of the big spots I'm missing. His is a more blue, yellow. Oh, I think I want it to be a little bit brighter. I almost want that to be... Oh, it's going okay. I was going to say I want to swap to a round. Because it's making me nervous with the shape, but... Little crescent moons that the filberts leave behind. But if I get a little paint into the veil, all the better, because I'm going to be blending. I want to keep that edge soft. Mixing a bit more. This side is definitely not green enough. Oh, also, yeah, sorry. This entire area is just, that corner is just going to be glare for a while. You can fix glare by the direction of the brush stroke. So if I do all the brush strokes like this, it will make the glare look like it goes away. It doesn't really. It's just anticipating how the painting is going to be lit later on and keeping it the same. But moral of the story is I don't see that glare from my angle, so I'm not gonna really worry about it. But just know that's what you're seeing. Sorry. Okay, I'm gonna throw a bunch of it here. Fill in the last remaining spots that are unpainted, even if that wants to be a little bit. I want it to be white. That's okay. Okay. Grab some more white, grab some more yellow. Grab a bit more yellow. Okay. Grab that, go like this. Oh, that's okay. That didn't go exactly how I wanted. Okay, it's the brushstroke shape. Ah, crescents. Go away. Okay, wait. Okay. Do I actually want to swap and brushes? I think I want to just establish a little bit more of the lights. And then I'll swap to a round. Add some more yellow, some more white. Add some orange, actually. There is definitively some very warmth up there. There, coming around in the halo. And then last but not least, I need a new brush if I'm going to do that. I'm going to grab This is the dark brush from the dress. And I'm going to add some of the white and some umber. Some yellow. We'll do cat orange. And we're going to just... Oh, see, no, that is actually very close to that color. I want it to be much more brown. Adding some warmth to these clouds. And down here. Okay. Since there is only one color left that's missing on this entire canvas, I'm going to do the blue, and then we're going to do one pass over everything and make it work. So, cat ultramarine blue. We're going to have straight ultramarine blue right there. That's pretty much it. Okay, we're going to add some white to that. And a little bit of yellow. Maybe a little bit of ochre actually instead. Ochre makes it more muted. And then there's going to be some here. There's more white there, so I'm going to stop. Little bits there. Just kind of blending that together. New brush. Filberts. Back to them filberts. And we're going to grab some black with the ultramarine. And yep, this entire area is pretty much just dark. Oh, that's a nice amount of paint on this brush. Oh, that arc was not in the right spot. Okay, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Improvise, adapt, overcome. Something like that. There's some lights in there. Then I'll pull up with that little bit of ultramarine. And there's just a tiny bit of dark in here, so I'll deposit a little bit. A little bit of ultramarine there. And then I'm going to grab the light brush again, the light blue that I was just using. Add just a little bit more white. Throw this in. Down here. That's super thin. This side's super thick. Grab some in between black, white. And just do a little bit of detail in here. I think that would help. I'm going to need to do the detail of the shoulder as well. And then right on the edge, this does kind of turn towards the highlight of the sky, just ever so slightly. Not too much though, I do see, mostly it just needs to fade into the other one. But then moving that over here and establishing these couple different shapes. It's a bit more dark. Okay, that's a good beginning. Throat, would you please stop being so scratchy? All right, and then I'm going to take this color, which I actually like a lot better than the other color I mixed earlier. And we're going to use this to tap the edge and blend those two together. Grab a little bit more because it's getting a little dirty. And then I need the darker-ish medium. This is the medium brush because I got rid of the dark brush. With some regrets, but mostly the red. And then we're just going to tap this on and soften this edge. And with that, the canvas is covered. So, now on to final finessing details. New brush. How do I want to approach this? Got a lot of brushes so far. All right. So I would go back to the veil. I didn't really finish this guy. Also, do you see this really bright highlight right there? That is entirely glare. It's just straight glare. That's not white there. That's just, okay. Yay. Wow. Okay, I think I'm good. All right, this is a slightly bigger round. I emphasis on the slightly. I'm going to work my way, softening all of these crazy edges that I have going on, especially working on next to the veil. So that's nice and soft. All right, evidently I got to finish up pretty quick because my throat is not going to survive. All right, so he did individual brush strokes going away. How we accomplished that and didn't get horrendous glare, we shall never know because we're not in front of the actual painting. It'd be so cool to paint a master copy in the museum. Also, there's red on my arm now. But also so terrifying. Anyone who comes in the museum is just going to stare at you and be like, wow, why are you standing here? I've seen it a few times. It's really cool. You have to get permission from the museum, though, and everything. I've always wondered that process, though. Soften these edges. I need to make that a little bit more opaque. I lost the opacity with how thin I was putting it down. Edging. I just realized I'm gripping these brushes so hard. Relax the hand. Painting is fun. There's, okay, what's going on with that yellow? Oh man, I'm just making that glare worse. Use your imagination. Your imagination. Lightening this up a little bit. The glow partially is definitely coming from her head. That's how halos work. veil definitely needs a second pass on this side. Okay, I'm running out of paint. Get some more. Some umber, some black, some white, some yellow. Burnt umber. Well, that's burnt umber. Oh, ultramarine maybe. Beautiful. Whoa, why? What is happening? Oh my god. Oh my god. What is going on? We're just gonna mute that. I don't know what's happening. Oh well. Alright. That's quiet. It's done. So. Now it's so quiet. My brain is just frozen. Okay. Coming up in here. Going delicately. Wait, do I know what that might be? Hold on, let me just check something. Ooh, I have no earthly clue what was playing. Hi. Oh, it fine. I wish you could like mute all audio besides some of it. Well, we're just gonna go quiet for the end of it. Might be. I'll figure that out for another day. So adding a little bit more light up here. A little bit more light up here. Okay, I think I want to go back to the veil. I'm adding in way too many brush strokes here. Okay, slow down. That didn't help. Go faster. Sometimes I feel like I'm just blopping down paint chaotically. But I find it actually, for my money, it works a little bit better than going super slow. When I go slow, I get too focused. And then I'm overthinking every brush stroke. Except here. So the reason I don't like halos that are so brush strokey is because I can never get the angle right. And the amount. There we go. Adding a little bit more white down here. And then coming over here, this shadowy area is not correct anymore. So I'm going to grab that dark shadow color brush. Throwing some in here. Delicate brush strokes that were mostly off the edge of the canvas. Coming in over. And down. Filling that area in. And over. Okay, is that enough? Oh, yeah, that's far enough over into the rest of the painting. I don't want to make the corner too big. So then There's some darkness over on this area. And up here. Oh no! I just saw the little green square that says everything is good. Flash yellow. Why would you do that? It knows we're coming to the end of the painting. All right. So last part that I really want to work on is the veil, I think. Yeah. So we're mostly gonna zoom on into the veil, focus in, get it done, and then the painting will be pretty much done. And if it's not perfect, it will still be done. That's my motto. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be complete. And the next day, when I come back, I'll be better. I really wanted to focus in on this upper area. Right. Because the brown in between is really thin because I applied it thinly, and I need to go back in and pump up the opacity just a little bit more. And that is mostly up in here. And I'm going to do that with a darker brown. Not super dark. It's just going to be... No, I do want it to be... I do want it to be the darker brown. But I'm gonna start with this, I think, yeah. Make it opaque, kind of blend in some of the edges of the highlights that I haven't done yet. Yeah. Oh my goodness. You can hear my mother in the background. I know you can. It's gotta be a little scuffed for it to be good. The stream has to get messed up a little bit at some point. Alright, and I think I want some more burnt umber, which is a much warmer color. Okay, wait. This highlight is not in the right spot, right? Doesn't go up high enough. Okay, I thought it needed to go lower. I'm going to leave that off because I don't have the white in my hand right now. I'm holding the brush that is the browns. And I want to continue up here. A little bit more of the umber, straight umber. All right. And going in here, opacity, making sure I'm not pulling up the other paint, because I am, so shifting the brush around so that I'm not cutting through the paint, I'm laying paint down. And this area too wants to be more that shape. Coming over. Getting a bit more. This, okay, so there's a darker portion here of her hair. Oh, I'm getting really close to the face and not being able to blend that in. And then there's a darker portion here, but in between there are some light spots. Bringing this down and over. Okay, this I know is too light, right? Yeah. So I'm going to blend it in to the paint over here. This has a bit of a dark shape right there. Ooh, but not that dark and not that wide. Okay, well. I'm grabbing a bit more of the burnt umber. You kind of start seeing a glowy through the veil kind of color that shows the warmth of the yellow while still being dark, so that's a nice burnt umber. And then a bit more. Wait, so what's going on over there? Is that the right? Okay, it's not. Trying to check shape, because I know at this angle it doesn't feel totally right. It needs to come out just a little bit with some delicate pieces of hair. And then over and up. Okay, and then I want to have some black in this brush. Some umber. There we go, and then add some dark there. And, oh, I have a little, like, I was gonna say snot. It looks like a snot, but that's gross. A little clump of hardened, icky oil paint. Just wipe that off on the side. All right, and then so the edge of the veil has a slight dark cast as it turns in space. And we look at it through the edge, which is the most opaque. If you're looking through sheer material and you look on it, you know, bunched up together, it's going to be thick and opaque. So we're kind of hitting that idea on the edge as it turns around Mary's head. I want a burnt umber and ochre. We're going to shift a little bit lighter and warmer to get some of these last color spots. Go in there. There's still some transparency, some scratchy areas there that I'm not liking. So I'm not going to move on quite yet. I'm going to get straight burnt umber on top of whatever's on my brush. It's not actually straight burnt umber. Just scraped a ton of that off because I got a clump again. That's what happens when I get to the dregs of the old paint from yesterday. This burnt umber is not new. But it's okay. All right, I'm gonna add some of that here. Going in the edges. And then there needs to be a little bit of it in this light spot, right? Oh, okay, that was way too dark. Okay, is that worth it to grab a different brush? Perhaps. First, I'm gonna finish establishing that right there. And a little bit more of this edge of the hair that we can see. Okay. Smooth out this area. And there's some dark strands that come through this area as well. Coming down here. And right on this edge as well for the same reason. This edge needs to have a little bit of a rework, but it needs to be reworked with light, so I'm going to move on. A little bit more dark down here, getting it more opaque. This has only had that one pass way earlier, and then I added the lights, and I haven't gone back to the dark. And then over here. Smoothing that edge. Kind of getting that in between the background, or the red of her dress being underneath the white and the yellow of the veil, while still also being smooth. You want to have the veil looking like it's on top while also blending with the underneath, just a tad. And there's, okay, so now I'm going to try to, this brush has gone slightly into the light. I'm going to grab a little bit more of the ochre, cad orange, and then I'm going to work some of these areas. Okay, so that was too dark, but that actually kind of, that just blended perfectly into the background. Okay. Blending, smoothing this area. All right. And tiny stretching break. I'm trying to check something. No. Okay. Life continues. Smoothing out some of these brush strokes. There's a little bit of darkness that I missed over there. And over here. Okay, so it's looking really scratchy. Ay! My foot just got stuck. How do I want to approach this? I almost do want to change her cheek line a little bit. Which is a dangerous proposition because I could go down the rabbit hole and just actually change her entire face. But I'm going to go in with a little bit of peachy pink. That is that peachy pink color that is right there. And I'm going to just put it in really, really quietly right here. Right like that. And then smoothing it out. Okay, how do I feel about that? Okay, it comes out too far now. What am I missing? Alright, we're whispering. Because we're focused. Okay. Okay. Now you take the dark. No. Actually, it kind of does glow right there. It doesn't go as dark as I did it. Maybe that is partially the problem. I'm seeing too harsh of a transition. And I'm just bringing this right next to it back down and smoothing that together. Okay. Grabbing a bit of the cad orange for warmth. Too much warmth. Take it back. Just burnt umber. There we go. All right, now how am I feeling about these bottom areas? I'm feeling like they're a little too chaotic. Though this paint is getting a little bit tacky and dry, which is an intriguing phenomenon. I mean, it usually does get tacky and dry, but having it happen so early, so quickly, feels almost like what Luca would have been dealing with on his painting. Because like I said, these highlights are like individual brush strokes that were done on dry paint, but maybe with more like semi-dry. Okay. Okay, I want to add a little bit of light. Wait, actually that was kind of good. Processing after the brush leaves the canvas, but I was getting some lights on that and I liked that color. Okay, what's different from this one to that one? This one? Wait. I'm going to get the lighter color for the veil, which has been totally destroyed with me doing the background, but it was cad yellow and white with a little bit of ochre. This is now way out of... No, actually, weird. That's weird that that actually worked. That the palette is not way forward. Maybe something like that. Making this a little bit more defined. Okay. A little bit like that. Softening that one. This doesn't go straight over, it comes in curves. This sheer part has a little bit more white on it. And this, I feel like has a little bit more just overall light. This little area comes out farther over before swinging back in. And it also has, okay, grab a like almost straight white. Yeah, that sort of little angling. There we go. Coming like that. And like that. And then this area has gotten too, not sheer, it's gotten like kind of opaque while still being kind of the right color. I think it just needs a little bit of jittery brushing. Ah yes, this also, I remember now, wanted to come up further. Like that. And then this also, it comes down, it doesn't just get to a corner, it comes down that way. I need to go back to the more chromatic colors though. I'm starting to just add white, which looks ugly. This little white spot is entirely too light and it's good in this spot, but it stands out too much. So I'm just going to go back in with a little bit more of the brown. Fuzz it up just a little bit. Not like that though. Because it needs some transition in there, but not that much. Like that. This too is too light up here. That. Also, I think her eyes do go back a little bit farther. Oh boy. This is one of the reasons why I kind of do the eyes or the face second in most of my paintings. Because going back in and adjusting this is gonna, it's the potential for disaster is extremely high. But there I go. That edge. All right. What else is wrong? Get a bit more of the medium color in there. This kind of floofs out too far. It wants to just kind of fall down the side. That. This is too light. Drag a little bit of dark right through the middle, pick up some of it, and then bring it down. We grab just a little bit also to give this a little bit more of a highlight. back to more of the darker colors. This does need a little bit more transition. I added a light to fuzz it up, and I'm going to add a little bit of dark to fuzz it back down. And then right here needs a little bit of transition. This is not the perfect shape. Goes a little bit more like that. There we go. Something like that. Okay, this light shape is supposed to be over here. How much do I want to fix that, and how much do I want to say, Answer kind of a bit. I am going to move that over a little bit. There's some light on my brush, so I can fudge that a little bit. And this wants to go like this a little bit. There we go, something like that. There we go. Adding in this little infinity, whatever. I don't know what's going on there, but it does a little infinity symbol. Adding in a little bit more definition there. And down here. Perhaps just a little bit down here as well. And then it does go darker right on this edge. Right on the edge. Keep it nice and soft though, so pat it back out. And then this has a little bit of a shadow in there. All right. This edge is not transitioned at all with the background, so I'm just gonna like that. Thinking, looking, plotting, thinking, plotting, looking. I almost want to call this good. I'm going to go in a little bit with the light color. And I pushed some of these highlights over, and I'm going to redefine them in the new location. Like that. Something like that. There is a slightly light spot right there. And then here, it needs to like that. Sound effects included. This comes over here. Oops, just got some paint on the... That is exactly how all the paint gets on there. Resting the brush at the wrong moment. I'm going to pop back to this one and just add a little bit of a transition here. The darker brush. And in here as well. Taking the lighter brush and coming in here. All right. I think this is the part of the day where I concede defeat, which means I'm done. Actually, I think it's pretty good. Thinking, I'm looking at up there. Yeah. Every painting can always have more that gets done on it. But this one is fin. Done. Yay. All right. Thank you so much if you watched to the end. This will be a time lapse on my Insta, a 1 minute long time lapse at some point. YouTube video is coming out today, 3:15 p.m. Central. So be on the lookout for that. It's Why I Do Art. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, hit the subscribe. Also hit the bell so you get notifications if you have that turned on, so you don't miss the streams and you don't miss the videos. Videos are roughly every Friday. So I might, yeah, roughly either every Friday or every other Friday. That's the goal. Just wiping off all the brushes. Oh, for brush cleanup, I haven't said this yet. Wipe off all the brushes, and then I have two different washers. I have the Chelsea Studios lavender brush cleaner, and then their bar soap. So you do the brush, you wipe, you clean in the fluid, and then you wash it all off clean with the bar soap. And if you have any questions, throw me a comment. If you want to chat, I was going to say throw a comment as well. I mean, yeah, sure, whatever. All right. Have a fantastic day, everyone. Have a great weekend. I will see you on either Monday or Tuesday. All right. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.